Good day, everyone. Thank you, Laura and Andy, for helping move this project forward. As we begin planning our new 5-year plan, I have been assessing the best way to improve exhibits and tackle some of the problems we face. Based on the research I conducted, it has become clear that the solution is mixed species exhibits. In this presentation, I will walk you through the research I conducted and present the results along with my final recommendation. Our mission as a zoo is conservation education. There are two groups of living creatures that are required for us to achieve this goal. That's the animals and the guests who come through our door. We are constantly striving to increase the animal welfare, and as research is done showing new ways to improve our animals' quality of life, it is our obligation to research these options. Lately, there has been a trend in guest focus on animal welfare. This can be a positive or a negative. When guests have positive opinions of zoos, they are open and receptive to the education that we are trying to give them. However, when they have negative opinions of zoos, they no longer take our education as important, and are no longer willing to make those changes that will ultimately benefit our animals in the wild. Lastly, each zoo faces its own limitations. For us, as you guys know, we are limited by space. We're flanked on the back by the Amtrak Railroad and then the Schuylkill River on our front. Therefore, we have no room to expand. So the space that we have is the space that we get. And in order to make the best use of that space, we have to evaluate guest opinions of exhibits as well as animal welfare and see how these all combine. While looking for answers, I had 3 main questions. How can we improve animal welfare using limited space? How can we make the best use of our space? And then while doing all of that, can we create exhibits that benefit our guest experience and creates a more engaging experience for our guests? In order to find these answers, I conducted online research to evaluate what other zoos have done. I also conducted a survey online that resulted in 85 responses. First and foremost, our animals are always our main concern for care and exhibit design. Mixed species exhibits create natural habitation, so animals that naturally will engage in the wild and benefit off one another. By creating mixed species exhibit, we can replicate that. Stimulus is a huge aspect. As we all know, enrichment is important for animals to keep them active within zoos as well as mentally stimulated. It's especially important in high-functioning animals like primates. The results show that mixed species exhibits for primates, they do interact interspecies, and the interactions is generally positive. So some results have shown that positive interaction or neutral interaction have been shown, and very rare cases of physical altercations have been shown between primates. Another result of mixed species exhibits has been improved breeding. Odense Zoo in Denmark has an African wild bird exhibit. They created this exhibit as a way to avoid pinning, which is the surgical removal of a joint in the bird's wing to prevent flight, as well as wing trimmings. So they create this in-flight exhibit that they no longer have to handle these birds to do these procedures. The birds are able to naturally fly around like they would do in the wild. And as a result, they have species of flamingos that they've had since 1940. No breeding, successful breeding since then. However, switching to that mixed species exhibit has resulted in positive breeding for them. So that shows that the exhibit the animal is housed in has a direct impact in their well-being and health and their ability to perform natural activities like breeding. How space is impacted by mixed species exhibits is a bit difficult to evaluate. It really depends on what species you're housing and how much space you're going to be using. That said, the highest success with space utilization has been with birds and reptiles, because birds and reptiles are able to utilize air, trees, and water if given. They take the best use of limited space because they're able to utilize all of the space available to them. Mixed species exhibits also are beneficial to indoor enclosures, so our reptile house will be a great place to implement mixed species exhibits. Successful design equals great reward. So if you can create a successful design, you will positively benefit the animals and benefit the people. However, there are limitations and risk. Safety is a huge concern. Security cameras have to be used and constant monitoring needs to be done when these interspecies connections are happening. Sleeping quarters must be separate, so if we are deciding to redesign an entire area, we must accommodate sleeping areas for these species that are completely separate from one another. Also, the larger the animals, the more space you're going to need. And that is just a fact of life for any of the animals that we have single species or mixed species exhibits. If you want to house an African plains mixed species exhibit, you're going to need about 5 acres of land. So with the mixed results on space use, you're probably asking yourself, are mixed species exhibits worth the space? The answer is yes, because of the huge positive guest opinion and experience that they increase. So, guests who see mixed species exhibits are more engaged. Based on this survey, they spend longer time watching mixed species exhibits. They even said that when animals are inactive, which we all know after working in a zoo, one of the biggest complaints people get is that our animals are sleeping. Your animals are sleeping, they're boring. People said in the survey, 69% of survey takers responded that even when animals are inactive, mixed species exhibits are more engaging than single species exhibit. Overall, other zoos have said that mixed species exhibit has increased guest experience and given them a deeper experience by being able to see the animals in a more natural habitat and exercising different natural activities that they would do. Lastly, one result that we weren't expecting of mixed species exhibits is changing negative opinions. 78% of people said that they feel mixed species exhibits have a positive or very positive effect on changing negative opinions. This shows that by simply changing exhibit design, we have the ability to curb opinions that people have of zoos from negative to positive. This is a huge benefit, and a lot of times animal welfare and guest opinion don't always align. So the fact that we found that mixed species exhibits actually both benefit the animals and the guests and makes the guests happy is extremely important and something that we need to utilize. So, how are we solving our problems? Mixed species exhibits is the answer. They increase animal enrichment and stimulus, resulting in better breeding as well as mental stimulus for animals like primates. It's a potential better use of space when done correctly and with specific species and animals. Also increases guest engagement and has the ability to change guest opinion. By doing this, we are able to open guests and make them receptive to our education. The next steps are going to be evaluating our animals and determine which species that we have can be housed safely and successfully in mixed species exhibits, design these exhibits, and then figure out where they fit into our 5-year plan. For questions or comments, feel free to email me or call me directly.